Guardian games are often cited by one thing. See if you can spot some of those mistakes in this clip here while I get some disclaimers out of the way. Today we're talking about how to get out of Guardian. There is a wide range of skill sets in Guardian. Some people are good at the laning stage, some people are good at like team fights, some people are good at late game decision making, right? There's a huge range. This is true for all brackets, I would say, but especially between like Guardian to Archon, it's hard for me to just pick like one single thing or a couple things to like, this is it. This is what you got to work on. So I know there's many things we could talk about in this video that would help different Guardian players improve and possibly get out of Guardian. But for the sake of one digestible video, right, I'm going to be focusing on what I think is the biggest, most common problem, but everything we said in the Herald video is still true. Everything we said in future videos will be true, and you can try to apply those in Guardian if you're in Guardian, right? I'm not saying you can't do that, but we're focusing on the issues that you're seeing in the clip right now. And I know it will not work every single game. No piece of advice will win you every single game. But if you consistently apply what we are talking about, like ignoring all the other advice you could bring in, only what we talk about in this video, consistently apply it over 100 games, maybe 80 of them just aren't in your control. It's fine. The remaining 20, 10, 5, whatever. Those games, you will increase your odds to win, and you'll go from a 50-50 win rate to like 52-48 losses, right? That's 4 net wins. You're gaining MMR. How fast that process is, maybe add more things, it speeds it up, whatever. I know, guys, you cannot win every single game of Dota. This piece of advice will not necessarily massively change every single game. For some people it will, but like, it's not about that. It is about improving enough games that you go beyond the 50%, and you climb out of whatever bracket you are in, which currently we're discussing Guardian. So, did you spot the problem? That's right. The issue is once again Smurf, team fighting. It's team fighting, okay? Many Guardian games just drag on for a really long time, whether you're winning or losing, huge lead, really close game, whatever. People don't have a great understanding of how to end the game, and they just kind of go forward, go with the flow, figure it out, right? And that leads to very slow games at times, a lot of chaos, and eventually one big fight just decides it. Again, whether you were winning or losing, it's all gone after that one team fight. Before we get too far into the team fights, I do want to give you a rough game plan just so that you all know what you're trying to do, and if you can share it with your team through communication, fantastic. If it doesn't happen because pub games are pub games, then that's okay. Just go with the flow. I know it won't work every time. So first we got the laning stage, kind of talked about in that Herald video. More details we could go into it. It's covered in other videos. We'll probably talk about it in the future. For now, do your best with what you know. Work on those last hits, get those denies, harass the enemy, all that stuff. After the laning stage, whether you're winning or losing, you're kind of looking to take tier 1 towers, either because you can just force it because you're stronger, or because you're weaker, you're kind of like trading towers, you're trying to like split push a little, whatever the case is, you're looking to open up the map on either side, or protect your towers, take their towers, right? But tier 1 towers tends to be like the next objective in our rough game plan. At this point, you can now farm up until you are strong. This stage, this like part of the game plan, can vary in length, but you do not have to feel like I took this tier 1 tower, I must take the tier 2 tower, or maybe took 2 tier 1 towers, we have to throw our bodies at the 3rd tier 1 until we get it. No. Take what you can from the tier 1 towers, and it's okay to farm up until you're strong. That varies a lot based on the hero and what the game is and all that, but typically some items like Blink Dagger or some like aura items could be good. Maybe you're farming till you hit like a certain level. You get like level 2 ult on the mid laner, or like supports have level 6, something like that. You can start doing stuff, right? Whatever that is, it varies. We'll go into more detail in the future, but you're trying to reach a point where you're strong enough to then group up for objectives. And now it's easier because we are stronger. We're not trying to force it too soon when we're weak, and it's hard to take the objective, let alone when the enemy is defending it. But we have farmed up that we can now fight over it, and we're not going to just die to the tower shots or something. Now, the objectives, go with what you can get. Again, there's technically like a specific order. I will mention Roshan is one that Guardians tend to really overlook. They only think about Roshan after they have thrown like a 20k lead on the high ground like 3 times, and then they're like, boy, this is hard. Is there something else to do? Oh yeah, Roshan. I guess I'll get Roshan now, right? But if you can get Roshan while you have the lead, now you have a bigger lead and the Aegis. That's a big power spike with which to take the other objectives, which is typically whatever towers are left, the barracks. Don't sweat the order too much, guys. Just as long as we're strong, let's go for an objective, that's generally good. Now, you don't group up and then just stay grouped up for the rest of the game. You will bounce between these two steps. And that's why, like, what strong is very tough to define. But let me give you some examples. Earlier, we said certain items and certain levels, but now it might just be certain cooldowns. So you might have a big ultimate that helps you win team fights, like Tidehunter Ravage, right? So you group up, you use Tidehunter Ravage, you pop some auras like the mech, things like that. Everyone uses all their abilities, you win the fight, fantastic. You can't just go to the next objective. You don't have your big ultimates. You don't have your big items anymore. They're all on cooldown. You are not strong anymore. So you enter this chill period. We take it easy. Maybe we can stay on the enemy side of the map. Maybe we're falling back to our half of the map. More discussion on that in future stuff. But we are not looking to fight. We are chill. We are farming until we're strong again. And this time it's not necessarily looking for an item or level timing. It's literally an amount of time. Like, I need 40 more seconds for my ultimate, and then I am strong again. And once you are strong again, and maybe you have some new items, and maybe you have new levels because you won the last fight, you group up again. You go to a new objective. Maybe you didn't finish the tower last time. You got it down to half. You go finish it this time. You use the abilities, and then you repeat. Sometimes you have your abilities, but you're close to the BKB, so let's just wait a little longer, just hold on to those cooldowns. That's fine too, right? There's all sorts of ways this can play out, but you will just be kind of going back between these two steps until the game is over. The problem is that a lot of people get stuck in this farm up phase. They don't have a clear end goal or even like steps, right? Like, I reach this point, I can do things, now I farm at the next stop, then I do things, right? They don't do this cycle. They just farm forever because they're like, if I hit level 25 and I have 6 items, like, then I'm good, right? Like, sometimes, yes, but this is why a lot of games go late and you end up with one major team fight where like a bunch of people are 6 slotted and eventually someone wins that fight really one-sidedly, and because they're so rich, they destroy the whole base in one go. And there's like no tactical sense to the game plan. It just like farm till you fight. But I want to give you guys a little more direction on like how you take fight sooner so you don't end up in that in all your games. I know like some will still go that way. In fact, probably a lot of them will, but some of them you can direct your team and you'll be able to take advantage of our very rough game plan here. Let me give you a couple things to look for so that you can try to identify when you want to take a team fight that might win you the game or dodge certain team fights. And we'll explain these as we go through the examples, but net worth and XP, these are the ones that I think most people know about and probably fixate on a little bit too much, which leads to the heavy farming. But there's also like the number of heroes you bring to the fight. There's the vision you have in the fight, but also of the map in general to find the right fight, and then positioning, again, in the actual fight and then throughout the map. I'm going to hit you with this without explaining it right now, but stop trying to farm 100% map efficiency the entire game. I see so many games thrown this way. What do I mean by that? Well, let me just show you. So we're back in the clip I showed you at the start. The Dire has 19,000 gold ahead. So yes, net worth, check. When we look at levels, check. We are definitely higher level than the enemy team, but it's those 3 other things, a number of heroes, vision, and positioning that determine the fight in this clip. So when we look at the Dire side, I would say if they grouped up together, they probably win if they do this correctly. So let's say maybe you wait for Aegis, maybe you don't because you just feel ahead. If Lifestealer hits this tower every time there are creeps so that he can't be hooked and everyone just stands behind him, what do you do? Because if you all jump the Lifestealer, there's going to be the counter black hole. There's going to be a Spirit Breaker charging through you, tornado reaction, right? So you're depending on like hooking the Lifestealer way back. Lifestealer so tanky, especially if he has the Aegis, that you can probably still do the same. Throw in tons of spells to disrupt. Kinda like everyone's clumped up back here, so you get the big black hole. You win that fight. You then take the buildings, right? So that's the Dire's game plan. So we can say, well, yes, Invoker and Spirit Breaker and Lifestealer, they're trying to push. They're right. What's happening back here? Well, I think Rubik just respawned and he's like making his way there. Enigma's stuck in farm mode a little bit. He technically has what he needs, like the Blink BKB, but you know what? I would say if he has Refresher, that is really nice, right? So Enigma is thinking, still in that farm up mode. He wants to be strong, finish the refresher. I don't hate it, but the problem is we have two separate ideas going on here. And so he's trying to farm up. This guy just respawned and teleported in here and is now farming. And these guys are still in like, let's go, go, go mode. So even though they have the net worth and the XP, they do not have the number of heroes. That is usually the most important one. And the positioning, like the fight hasn't happened, so let's not worry about that. But the position of the heroes, they're like way back here. These guys are up here, right? If we look at their vision, they don't really know what they're dealing with. They have this ward, which is kind of deep. And yeah, they're like here, so probably no enemy heroes are showing. Is Slardar the only one up here? Are there 4 heroes behind Slardar? Is there a Pudge Hook going to come from Fog of War? They don't really know this, and yet they're all pushing up to the tower, right? Lifestealer's coming up here. Even, okay, now Necrophos is showing, so we feel a little more comfortable, but now Slardar's gone. Is he instantly TPing back? Do they have an observer here, seeing that our supports aren't here, right? So vision-wise, the Dire doesn't really have, you know, much going on here. And that's part of why it's hard to siege the high ground, because it is tough to have vision in the enemy base. And that's why you definitely want the number of heroes advantage and the net worth and the positioning. Like, you want to be in a good spot, but they don't have that. And yet they're still up here. So who you want to blame, it doesn't really matter. Both people are making mistakes. If you are the core players or the supports who want to push, and you're like, this guy won't push, you can't push without him. You're just going to throw. You got to go wait for him. Go here. Farm this stuff. This guy goes, I want farm. He moves here. He farms this. You farm this one. He's like, I still want more farm. He moves this way. You're tricking him into farming towards where you want him. Brilliant. If you are the supports who are like, please do not fight right now. We are so close to, you know, black hole cooldown. We're so close to refresher. Please don't push. And like, you know, let's say they're in the right. What are you going to do being right? If these guys are still going absolute ham and you're back here, you're right, what are you going to do when these guys all die, right? You can't do anything with your black hole refresher and everyone's dead but you. So sometimes in Dota, you got to do the suboptimal thing that your team is doing, because in my opinion, this is just how a lot of pubs go. Like, the team play is better than the correct, but you don't have everything you need play, right? So if you're the supports, just go with them. Go ham. Even if you're behind, you're like, well, we're going to lose either way, so I got to go. And then we have a chance, because at least we have the other prerequisites for the fight, and maybe they aren't all here. Maybe they're slow coming back. These guys, yeah, we should push right now. Yeah, we're a bit on a timer, but if we go, we're just going to throw, so we got to fall back. That's just the way it is. I'd like to point out Necro has no buyback, so any kill on him could potentially lead to the end of the game, or massive advances where you get like multiple buildings. But we're still pushing without the team. Who you want to blame? I don't care. There's Necro out of position. Spirit Breaker charges through. Great vision. Who's one of the heroes who can deal with BKB Black Hole? Pudge. Look at these three together. Fights are decided within fractions of a second sometimes. So if Enigma had been chilling here, if he'd been smoked, boom, pop the BKB, blink, Black Hole. Technically, you could be bashed, but how are you going to blink into the black hole to bash, depending on the positioning, right? So a lot of cases, Enigma is fine versus Slardar. And so this could have been triple kill right here, win the game, but we're not. Instead, we're up here on our own. Good save from Pudge. We're still going to commit as the Dire. We could get out, but like, we're still in. We don't have the numbers advantage, vision advantage, positioning advantage, none of it. So now the Radiant, who has been behind, they're leaving their position advantage, they're leaving their vision advantage, but it's fine because they have the numbers advantage now as they pick up these kills, and so they can just run it down. Enigma, his refresher is about to be delivered. He has it now. Great, the team is dead. So now some Radiant mistakes. Necro walks up here and TP's bottom. This is going to hurt the number of heroes here. You never know when the enemy is going to buy back and defend. Now at the tier 2, you know, probably not so likely, but Boost of Travel is 40 seconds, which means when your team starts going on the tier 3s, where people will buy back, and there's not going to be a new Fortify potentially because you've already taken one tier 2, so if they use it here, then there's no Fortify for this one, or you take this one, there's going to be a Fortify here, right? Like, you don't know. You also don't know where their Fortify is. In this case, we know because of the replay, right? So you kind of need to be here in case the fight is about to happen as they all buy back. You got to help your team get out and retreat. But by TPing away, he's giving information to the Dire. Hey, he's TPing down here for 40 seconds. Necro can't show up. If Necro had walked down here, that would be fine because he can always boot to travel back in, fortify your creep wave to make sure it survives if you have to. That would be fine. Slardar leaving, We are in a potential win the game situation. We've been behind so far on the Radiant. Taking a set of barracks could equalize the game. If we kill Enigma, then that gives us another window. If we kill anyone who buys back potentially, we might be able to win. If they all buy back suddenly, because there's a blink BKB black hole, and they all buy back, and they all TP in that time, and they kill our heroes, we could simply lose off of that. So when I put the stakes that high, and we start thinking about the game that way, does trying to be map efficient in farming, because you're like, ooh, I'd really like this Aghanims plus buyback, right? Who cares? We could win or lose right here. Or maybe it's not the full win or the full loss, but like massive developments in the game could happen by taking these buildings. So you need to give up on the farm sometimes, right? Like buyback. What if it's all of them? What if this was the blink black hole suddenly, right? Can Slardar help right away? No. What if Invoker shows up? In fact, let's just play it out. Invoker going to take a lot of risk here, knowing his team does not actually have buyback, right? What if Slardar had just been waiting, smoked up, invis with his Trickster Cloak? What if he just BKB, blink, stun, hits the Invoker, hooks the Invoker out, kill Invoker? Careful not to bait your team. Maybe they all run in, they get black hole, everyone buys back, you get wiped, right? That's also a risk. But with the proper, hook him out, kill him here, that could have been something they do. Some games there won't be the Enigma. You don't even have to worry about that, right? But none of that is possible because he's not here, because he's looking for the Aghanims. Like, oh, I'll be stronger with the Aghanims. He is so strong right now with his team when there are only 2 heroes alive, right? And that's why it's so important to identify in the moment, we are so strong right now. Not necessarily because I have a ton of money and because of levels, but because of the context of what is happening in the game, the amount of heroes, the vision, the positioning, all of that. I can be powerful without having to farm a little bit more money right now. Like stealing torments are like kind of cool, but like winning the game kind of cooler, right? Another example from the same game, very shortly after what we did, they respawned, they actually picked off Pudge. Fantastic. We can maybe force Pudge buyback. Probably safer to do Roche. Whatever. Like I said, it won't happen a lot in Guardian games. Not going to sweat it right now, but it would have been good to do. Do we have the advantage? Oh, it's 5 versus 4. When Lifestealer is up here on his own, is it 5 versus 4? When Spirit Breaker is here and he's showing in the creep wave, so they know Spirit Breaker is here, and Spirit Breaker is fast, but he's not like, boom, here, instantly fast. When Enigma's here, when Rubik is here, and maybe there's a ward that spots this kind of stuff, when Invoker is in another lane showing, even if he has Boots of Travels, right, takes a few seconds to teleport over, is it really a 5-on-4 fight right now? No. Is Lifestealer correct? Yes. Should we all be pushing and punishing that Pudge is dead? Probably. We can make a case for it. But is he correct to do this when his team is not yet there? No, that is his own mistake. And sometimes, I'm going to repeat it a lot because it's very important, sometimes you got to do suboptimal stuff just because you cannot force the right thing to happen if you do not actually have everyone there, all the tools, right? So they do get the buyback. And guess what? They're going to kill Lifestealer because guess what? Everyone's not here. And Enigma, he wasn't ready in position. He got revealed. Now he's being run at. He can't blink BKB black hole this because his positioning, the vision, whatever, like revealed, they knew where to go. And so now the Dire is going to lose another fight off of this. Let's look at an example a little bit earlier on in a game. Keep an eye on the minimap. We're going to be following this Legion commander here. She's about to go for a duel, but notice how there's not a lot of vision for her team. This is not the end of the world. It does happen, but it means you need to be very safe about the plays you make. So we saw Mirana mid, we see an Ogre bottom. So maybe Ogre support could be a good dual target, but who's with the Ogre? Who's not with the Ogre? I don't really have that kind of information if I'm the Legion commander, so you have to be really careful when going for this Ogre Magi. You need either A, more information from the other parts of the map, potentially from deep wards giving you that vision, like maybe you see this area, you know Ogre's on his own, or you see this area, so you see the cores. The deep vision is not set up right now. Don't blame anyone, it happens sometimes. So how can we get vision? Well, if you have your team or you do it yourself, push out the top lane and then start making your way to the mid, to the bottom. Someone will deal with this or someone will not deal with this. If you see someone here, though, for example, the Lifestealer, then you know, okay, Lifestealer is there. I'm kind of scared of Lifestealer. Or in this game, it looks like Kunkka's having a really good game. So maybe Kunkka shows here, and now you go, okay, you know what? Kunkka really scares me, but the other heroes, not so much. I pushed in top. My team pushed in top. Whoever, Kunkka showed here. It means Kunkka is not down here. Now, maybe he could TP in, but if we like do the gank out here, like Kunkka has to TP in, walk, right? We have time to kill the ogre and then get out. But Legion is going to move her way in here without that information. Okay, we do see Kunkka mid, but again, still don't know where like Spirit Breaker, global rotations, all that, Lifestealer, right? So turns out as she comes down here, if we actually swap vision, the Radiant had wards set up. So they had one here, they have two in this area, so they actually see Legion coming in, and so Kunkka is already on his way. They're going to surprise the Legion with the Blink Duel. Here's the charge in, and so they're going to get the Legion kill. They're going to get the follow-up Wraith King kill here in a moment. So you can see here how this wasn't a full 5-on-5 team fight, but even the smaller pickoffs follow the same principles that we talked about earlier, where even if one team is ahead, so in this case, Radiant is ahead and they won the fight, but part of the reason they won that fight is because they had the vision. If Kunkka, after pushing in mid, had decided to walk top, if Spirit Breaker had used charge somewhere else, then Ogre Magi is on his own, and even though his team is ahead of the Dire, he probably gets picked off, a little bit more money, a little bit dual damage towards Legion. Legion trying to find kills here because it is what she needs, but she needs to think about that other stuff. She can't just look at Ogre and see that is someone I can kill. She has to think about the other. How many heroes could be there? What is the information I am missing? How can I get that? This is on the enemy's half of the map, right? If we think about positioning. So if Ogre was here, then maybe that's a little bit of a different story. Maybe it's a bit more okay for Legion to come for this kill because her team could respond faster. But she's on the enemy's half of the map. It means they can respond faster, and she didn't have the vision to help her decide if they can respond that quickly or not. So pretty much totally avoidable death here. So here's another example, jumping forward a few minutes. This particular game, it is pretty difficult to split push safely because of the Spirit Breaker charge. But in some games, you will be able to because there's like no Spirit Breaker or you have long range spells. If Legion's team had shoved this lane in before she comes through the Twin Gate to go top, this will eventually give you information because the creep wave will continue pushing this way, and at some point, someone on the Radiant will deal with it, or they will not. And if no one deals with it, it means no one's down here, which means they're probably all towards the middle or the top half of the map, and so making plays there could be dangerous. So Legion does not do that. She actually like looks around here for a little bit, but rather than blindly risk this, she could push this lane in, let it go in forward, jungle back here, which is a little bit more safe. It's still a little scary with so much missing, but you let the creep wave scout for you. If someone deals with it, you look and you see, oh, it's Mirana, I can kill her. Blink duel. If Lifestealer shows up, if Kunkka shows up, you're like, oh, I ain't dealing with that, right? You go somewhere else, and the whole time you've been hiding here. She did not shove the lane in and then just blindly walked forward, so this is the most risk to her. In this particular case, it doesn't look like she's being punished, but it could have been another free kill being given away. Off of that, she goes top. They do push in this lane, and then the team smokes right here, which is a little bit unnecessary and also a bit dangerous with still no information being shown down here and still this creep wave. So now this lane is pushing in, but it hasn't really pushed in far enough yet. They haven't gotten any information from this lane yet, but they're moving now. So really, they should probably wait a little longer, especially considering they're on the back foot. If you're ahead, you can be like a little more forceful on these things, but when you're behind, you got to be more careful. So you kind of have to wait for this lane, the push, to actually give you information, for this mid lane, which is pushing, to actually give you information. If no one is dealing with this in the next 30 seconds, it is very suspicious. They are all probably doing something that they think is more important. So they should have waited a little longer. Instead, they're going to go. Now, fortunately, as they're going, people start showing. And this is why in pub games, you might be like, oh, we're not doing what Zach said, but it still worked out sometimes. It's not a guarantee that it always works or doesn't work. It's more just like, what are your odds of success? And so the more you can push it in your favor, the more likely you can make good plays rather than bad plays, compared to this, which is a totally random play. No information, just go. Sometimes it'll work. Sometimes it will not work. In this case, yes, it will work, because when we reveal the full map, Lifestealer is on his own. He gets jumped. And even if everyone were to TP in right now, it would take 3 seconds for the first guy and then like 5+ for the others, which means there's time to kill Lifestealer, and now the TPs would be completing and you can get out. It's a lot safer to make that play if you have some of that information. Whereas if Kunkka had been here, if another 2 heroes had been here, suddenly you jump the Lifestealer, Kunkka immediately throws the boat, immediately starts torrenting the team. Whoever's not here TB's in, the charges come in, and now you're suddenly diving a tier 1 tower while 8k behind. So this is a case of it working, but not necessarily because we really had the right information. It was a gamble. Earlier, I said number of heroes is usually the most important, but I just want to highlight it's not everything. So off that Lifestealer kill, the Dire is pushing in, and they're going to go for this Tormentor, but the Radiant already has this Watcher, so they see the heroes coming in, and they see them start it. So even though there's only 2 heroes here right now, Kunkka and Mirana, if you take a look at the net worth, Kunkka's absolutely popping off this game, so he's super strong. This position is really good for him. Even though he used Boat, he has Torrent Storm, and he knows what they're doing. And even though it's technically 4v5, currently 2v5, because these guys aren't here yet, he's like getting a TP, scroll delivered. This guy's going to charge it as soon as they get vision. The Tormentor does a lot of work, and you have to respect that. So this is a combo mistake here from the Dire, such that with the arrow, it gives enough vision. They see like, oh, these guys are kind of low. Fantastic Torrent Storm into a huge cleave over here. Just instantly deletes a couple of the heroes. Buys enough time for everyone else to join in. So again, just to highlight, you may have the numbers advantage, but it really depends on everything else as well. What heroes are in the game. Like someone who doesn't have as much AoE as Kunkka, maybe you can do this. But the fact that he was able to hit like all 5 heroes with his spells allowed him to make a massive use of his huge net worth here, and then the positioning is what allowed that, right? If you do this same thing, but it's more in the lane, and he only hits like 2 heroes here, but then he's flanked from the side by a Grimstroke, soul binding him to the Mirana, followed by like double Hex, double Shackle from the Shadow Shaman, then he's probably dead. They're feeding before the other heroes can get here. So really consider everything. It's not just about having money and levels. It's not just about having vision or number of heroes or positioning. It's like all of those plus a bunch of other stuff you could get into. We could get into all that stuff right now, but here's what we're going to do instead. I'm going to stop the video here. I think what we've covered has already given you a good idea to push you in the right direction to take those team fights the right way and the better ways, and like hopefully win enough games. If you think that's not enough to get out of Guardian, please leave comments below. Let me know. I'll try to help answer stuff there, maybe future videos. But I know there's more we could go into for team fighting. It just drags on longer and longer. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, please leave a comment down below, leave some match IDs for me. We'll make a follow-up video here. I'm not going to feel rushed for time. However long that video ends up, it is, and we will just break down a lot of different team fights in depth. Like, here's how you have to win. Here's how you set up the win. Here's where you like call a stop to the plan because like it's not working. Here's the signs, right? I'm going to do it real in depth there. So if you're interested in that, it'll be linked in the description once it's out. It'll probably come out in a couple days after this video has. So if you're watching in the future, boom, it's already here. But yeah, it just drags on so long because otherwise, like if you don't want to watch that, that's fine. It just takes a long time to build up that experience. You just play a lot of games and slowly you get a better and better feel for it of like each unique individual game. But if you want to jumpstart that, then yeah, maybe that video will help you. I know it's like sometimes a little boring to watch that long analysis for some people, but it really is one of the best ways to improve your team fighting and like overall knowledge of the game. So if you want to be one of those players, I'll see you there. Bye.